It's time now for the World Brief and a review of some headlines from today's newspapers. First, let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, US President Donald Trump has announced a deal to supply more weapons to Ukraine and has threatened to impose steep tariffs on Russia unless a peace deal is reached within 50 days. Sitting beside NATO chief Mark Rutte, Trump shared the US decision to deliver more weapons through NATO and European countries, and he would say that Europeans would be footing the bill. Now, neither Rutte nor Trump elaborated on the weaponry that will be sent to Kyiv, but Rutte did say that the deal included missiles and ammunition. The plan is, of course, a dramatic U-turn for US policy as it comes weeks after the Pentagon announced it would be pausing weapons shipments to Ukraine. But Trump has become increasingly frustrated with Russian President Vladimir Putin and hopes the weapons will bring a swift end to Russia's more than 3-year invasion of Ukraine. Coming home to the African continent, and the world's oldest head of state, Cameroon's President Paul Biya, who is 92 years old, has announced his bid to run once more for re-election in October, aiming to extend his 43 years in power. Biya says his decision to go for an 8th term came after numerous and insistent calls by people from all regions in Cameroon and the diaspora. Now, despite his reasoning, Biya's administration has faced criticism over allegations of corruption and embezzlement, as well as accusations of bad governance and failure to tackle security challenges. There have also been concerns about his personal health and ability to govern. Now, presidential elections are due to be held in Cameroon on the 12th of October 2025. And finally, to Southern African politics, and the Lesotho MP is facing criminal charges after he accused the country's monarch and government of signing over control of Lesotho to its much larger neighbor, South Africa. Now, Dr. Shepo Lefolo also faces charges of violating the dignity and reputation of the royal family by declaring himself the chief, this is the monarch he's accusing, declaring himself the chief ruler of the landlocked country. Now, the opposition MP has previously called for parts of South Africa to be declared Lesotho's territory and wants them returned to Lesotho's control. Among them is the Free State, one of 3 South African provinces that share a border with the small Southern African nation. He also lays claim to the Northern Cape, the Eastern Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. It's important to note that the people of Lesotho did live in these areas until the 19th century when they were seized by Afrikaners. Afrikaners are, of course, white South Africans. Many still live there, especially in the Free State. Those are your stories. Love to hear your thoughts before we move on to the papers.
Is that not the legacy of colonialism we're talking about? The fact that some people came from the Netherlands. They came because that was a route where they could sell their spices. It was part of the spice route. And after they came through the Cape of Good Hope and the spice trade fell, then they became the voetrekkers and they walked up and they started claiming land that doesn't belong to them. And you're seeing all of this back and forth. So it's the legacy of colonialism, but the counter-argument I also make is, yes, we acknowledge that colonialism is there, but we can't continue to blame colonialism for our problems. Having leaders like Hastings Kamuzu Banda was not colonialism that destroyed Africa, that destroyed his country. Having leaders like Mobutu Sese Seko Kuku Ngenu Wazabanga was not colonialism. Aided by colonialism, though, aided by what the Belgians and the CIA and the likes did, but it's not colonialism. We too will not have fair share of African leaders. So Mbai will talk more about that, but let me go to Russia and Ukraine. You know, we have gotten to a crossroads in our life where we see a circus in a position of leadership. Mbai, you were talking about dignifying the position, the seat of the president because of patriotism. But you see, dignity will only be bestowed on a seat by the quality of the occupants on that seat. Correct me if I'm wrong, I will never see the American presidency seat as the same any longer since Donald Trump has sat on that seat and he has gone. It will take another American president to be able to recalibrate my mentality towards the respect of the seat of an American president. A man that has turned the seat into a joke. A man that perpetrated insurrection. A man that had Ukraine go through a merry-go-round. So if you know that you were still going to come back and give them weapon, where the intelligence agency told you that Russia was not going to balk, but you kept on fooling yourself with Putin, thinking that you were smarter than a KGB official, when the joke is on you. So now that Putin has finally showed you that I'm an ex-KGB official, now you are acting shocked and surprised. Anyway, I'm not surprised. Is it not the same Trump that a body double faked to be Mikhail Gorbachev and came to visit Trump in the 80s when he was still a realtor? And Trump welcomed the fake Mikhail Gorbachev. Fact check me on that story, if it never happened. Fact check me. It happened in the 80s. So I'm not surprised. But now he has realized that Russia is never there to make peace. And see, if you think the war with Ukraine was in response to what the West is doing, and trying to build bases and trying to prevent the onslaught of American expansionism, the joke is on you. Because I keep referring, Putin himself wrote a 5,000-word article telling you that he has historical precedent to be able to take over Ukraine because Ukrainians were originally Russians. So now he says he's going to place tariff on countries that trade with Russia. Senator Lindsey Graham and the likes are pushing that bill in the House. He says he's going to bring sanctions. What sanctions will work against Russia? Didn't they pull them out of the SWIFT system? Did that work? Now he's accepted to give Ukraine weapons, but he's going to sell it through Europe. Anyway, President Zelensky has quickly called him to thank him because you know Trump, when you don't thank him, it's a problem. So they've called him to thank him. And let's see how all of this pans out. He says also that Putin didn't deceive him. That's not true. He deceived you. He said Putin deceived Bush and Trump and Clinton and the likes and Obama. He deceived you. In fact, you were easily more deceived. Obama wasn't delusional when he talked about the Russian reset. He knew the capacity of Putin and what Putin could do. In fact, kudos to Biden. You might not like Biden, but at least it was Biden that helped us demystify Putin by standing up to him what the likes of the Obama didn't do when Putin took over Crimea and Donbass and South Ossetia and Abkhazia. If not for Biden saying we will support Ukraine, how are we going to know that Putin does not have a strong army? So let's see how this new phase will pan out. If I talk about the word tackle Trump now, they will say I've started again. But yet again from we are not going to give you weapons, he has turned 360 again to we are going to give you weapons. So Vimba, when you make the argument that we should respect the seat of the president, the seat is only as dignified as the person sitting on the seat. So the seat of the American presidency has been made a mockery of. And that's why in the argument of respecting the seat of the president, what we should do is to ensure that institutions that bring in people that become leaders are tight enough not to bring in all sorts of people. I think it was a philosopher that talked about the tomfoolery of democracy sometimes. The fact that he might allow you bring in buffoons as leaders. Socrates. I talked about the tomfoolery of democracy, that if care is not taken, you can bring in buffoons as leaders. So in that, let's also understand this perspective. Let's hope all of this goes well. And I know it's not on your story, but Femi, I just have to say, because my conscience will not let me be.
Go ahead.
Never will I ever think that a day will come that Israel will build an Auschwitz in Rafah. This new attempt to have an enclosed place for 600,000 Palestinians in Rafah is a replica of Auschwitz concentration camp that Adolf Hitler took the Jewish people to. I think it's unfair. I think it's not nice. I think they should stop it. Never will I think in my lifetime, anyway, that happened before I was long born, that history will turn full circle. I yield the floor.
All right. Well, very quickly, I'm going to beg to differ with you, Rufai, because I love the robust debates that we have, and I love that we can agree to disagree and respect each other's points, because I think both positions carry validity. But democracy, in essence, is a system where the majority have the way and the minority will have their say. Because at any moment in time, we can end up on the other side of history where we don't like what the majority has chosen. And so that's why it's important to ensure that there's some degree of sanctity to the offices themselves, because they're not permanent seats. They're temporary seats, and it's a game of musical chairs, and people will come and go. And that's why it's important to, like you're saying, to strengthen the institutions so that we can ensure that as various people come and go, at least there's the integrity of the seat is maintained. But today I want to focus on Lesotho, because these are the stories that fascinate me. If you give me time, I can talk. Because when you look at the colonial legacy, and yes, Rufai is right in saying we can't continue to blame colonialism, but we're not doing the work to undo what was done in colonialism. How was Lesotho created, which is Basotho land? Lesotho was created when the Dutch settlers started invading South Africa. And the community around Basotho land at the time saw their kingdom shrinking by the day. So what did they do? King Moshoeshoe I ran to the British and said, please protect us. So it became a British protectorate. And this is how you ended up with a little parcel of land that's enclosed by a whole other country. I believe it's the only country in the world that exists inside another country. Because they went to the British themselves and they begged and they said, please, the Dutch are going to overrun us and they're going to render us extinct. Having said that, that means that you find Basotho, which means Sotho people, all around, because just because the land that they were able to preserve, became a country on its own, it doesn't mean that their people were all around, were exterminated. Exactly, they were all over the place, which takes me to the point of mega tribes. So the colonialists now said that, all you people are Sotho people. This is the same way, you people are Yoruba people, you're all Igbo, we're not. So that's why within Yoruba, within Igbo, within even my own little Shona tribe, there are so many different languages and so many different, because that's not how we were. They found us and we were different ethnicities, but they came and this thing is too difficult. Let's just bunch you people up together as, so that's legacy, another part of the legacy. So now you find Sotho in South Africa, in those Free State, parts of KZN, Eastern Cape and so forth, they're all around there. Now, what's the argument by this Dr. Tsepo Lipolo? Dr. Tsepo Lipolo has been on it for a couple of years now, where he's saying that we need to get our land back, our land was taken away and so forth. However, you need to remember that in 1964, I believe it was, there was a Cairo Declaration by the African Union, where the African Union, at the time it was the Organization of African Unity. They came together and they said that if we all start asking for our land from pre-colonial times, there's going to be a state of anarchy and chaos in Africa. Because just imagine, from Cape to Cairo, if every single ethnic group started saying that, no, we need to revisit our borders from before the colonial times. So 1964, the Cairo Declaration was agreed upon, which says that we will respect the border integrity of what the colonialists created moving forward for Africa. But this man is standing on the 1962 declaration from the United Nations that said Basotho land people can have the right to self-determination. Right. Anyway, in summary, it's a mess. He's not going to get what he's looking for, of course, because South Africa is not ceding land to anybody. He has one seat in Parliament, in a Parliament of 120 people. He's a revolutionary, good for him, and I hope he can look for other ways to further to further sort of the good of the Sotho people as a whole. I don't think ceding land is going to, declaring himself the paramount ruler is going to do anything. anything for him. But I think it's a noble,
trouble.
besides getting arrested, but a noble cause nevertheless.
Yes. Well, thank you both for your submissions on the World Brief. Before we go to papers, let's go back live to Katsina State, where our Rise correspondent Nisi Gabriel is at the airport, where the body of late President Muhammadu Buhari is set to be received. Nisi, good morning. I hope you're doing well. We do know that the president's body has started its journey from London onwards to Abuja. Give us an update on what you're seeing on the ground there.
All right, thank you. I'm here at the Umaru Musa Yar'Adua International Airport in Katsina, where the remains of the former president, the late president, Muhammadu Buhari, is expected to arrive here at noon. Several prominent figures are expected to attend his burial today in Daura, as the nation pays its last respect to a man whom has been described by many as one who has a towering figure, one who lived a simple and humble life. Well, just moments ago, we saw the governor of the state. He just left the airport. I believe he came here to ensure that preparations are in top gear as the remains of the former president are expected. Also, the former vice president, in the person of Yemi Osinbajo, just arrived this airport a few minutes ago, and we understand he's heading straight to Katsina Metropolis, and in a few hours later they will be back here as they receive the body of the former late president. Also, what do we expect? We expect that the remains of the former president will arrive aboard the Nigerian Air Force aircraft here in the airport. We also expect that there will be a ground military reception, because I saw the military over there rehearsing as they expect the arrival of his remains. Also, we also expect that there's a huge possibility that his coffin will be transferred to a hearse or a military convoy. But what we're also hearing is that it might likely be transported via the helicopter straight to Daura. But we're on ground here, and we will keep our eyes here to beam live for our viewers everything that happens as the nation pays its last and final tribute to former President Muhammadu Buhari.
Right, this is great work, very somber time for Nigeria. I just want to ask, what are the details? We're getting some report that probably the body has just left about an hour ago in the UK. So that means add on 6 hours, even if the plane flies so fast, maybe 5:45, 5:50, it gets there. That's 5 hours, 45 minutes, 5 hours, 50 minutes, it gets here. So plus 8:30-ish to about 5 something. That's about, if my math serves me right, that's about 1, 2-ish. And when will we be able to get the body in time to be able to, put on the ground before the sun sets? I mean, can you tell me all about that?
Yes, what we know is that as we speak, the body is airborne, and the time issued by the governor of the state and from the federal government is that it is expected to arrive at noon. But just like you rightly predicted, it is also possible that as at the point when the aircraft left London, that was not the actual time it was reported. So give and take, we expect the remains of the former president to arrive Katsina at noon, latest 1 p.m., at most 2 p.m. But we do know what we know is that according to Islamic rites, and that was one of the reasons why this funeral didn't hold yesterday, from what I gathered. According to Islamic rites, it's not proper. The Islamic tradition frowns at late funeral. So it is my expectation that at noon, latest 1 p.m., 2 p.m., the body of the former president will be in Katsina State. And from Katsina, it will be transported straight to Daura.
Okay, Nisa, can you give us just a bit of an outlook on what we can expect with regards to the Islamic rites in a funeral, especially when it's a state burial of this magnitude? Because we know that, with other faiths, you have a process of lying in state and, various other rites are observed. So can you just walk us through the Islamic rites that we should expect from the moment that the late president's body lands in Katsina?
All right. Once the body arrives What we expect is this body will be accompanied by senior government officials, former heads of states, straight to Daura. And from what we've gathered, the funeral proceedings will be conducted by the Emir of Daura himself. And also after that, there will be a 3-day mourning and prayer period in honor of the former president. And as you already know, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has directed 25 members of his Federal Executive Council to remain in Katsina for this 3-day mourning and praying period. So we expect, according to Islamic rites, prayers, recitations will be carried out in honor of the former late president.
Okay, well, we will continue to be checking in on you, Nisi, throughout the day. Well done on what you've been doing so far. Looking forward to speaking to you again. We go back to our newspaper headlines, and let's begin with This Day. Now, This Day does report on President Tinubu leading a high-level federal government delegation to the burial ceremony of the late Nigerian leader, Muhammadu Buhari. He's expected to receive the remains of the deceased former president of Nigeria, of course, in Katsina at the airport later on in the day. In the same vein, we do know that earlier this week, President Tinubu approved the constitution of an interministerial committee for a state burial for, of course, the dearly departed Muhammadu Buhari, former president, who died in London on Sunday at the age of 82. Buhari will be buried today at his home in Daura, Katsina State. Arise News, as you've already seen, will be covering the burial in its entirety. Now, This Day also reports on the tight security at the burial site of the Awujale and paramount ruler of Ijebuland, the late Obasiku Kayode Adetona. He was buried at his Igbeba private residence, according to Islamic rites, on Monday. Now, the burial was supervised by Islamic leaders from 6 southwest states, as well as Edo and Delta states. And there are also reports in This Day that, security arrangement at the event prevented a potential crisis, as traditionalists, referred to as Oshugbo, did reportedly storm into the premises. I have to say that if that were the case, it wasn't something that disturbed the bigger arrangement of people. But the reports do suggest that they were moved back, essentially, and led out of the palace, or the place, rather, since it is a private residence, by armed soldiers who reportedly rose to the occasion. Let's take a look at the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph and actually the Daily Independent, both of them look at the global outpouring of tributes for former President Muhammadu Buhari. The chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mahmoud Yusuf, has described the former president as a Pan-Africanist and an advocate for regional integration. Kenya and India are also releasing tributes to that effect. The United States and the Chinese embassies here in Nigeria have also extended their sympathies to the Nigerian people while acknowledging Mr. Buhari's contributions to the nation's democratic development. Then we have the Daily Independent. The Daily Independent looks at preparations in Daura, as well as the Punch. The Punch leads with the Daura kinsmen and associates reflecting on Buhari's final months. Now, the former president's remains are, as we've said, being flown to Nigeria as we speak. We can see the picture headline on the Punch that does show the raw anguish from the former First Lady Aisha Buhari, what she and her family are going through. She's seen pictured embracing the Second Lady, Hajia Nana Shetima, as well as Florence Ajimobi. I think that is her, yes, on the far right hand, and that is the far left hand for us. But she is, of course, the former First Lady of Oyo State, who herself actually was bereaved following the death of her daughter earlier this year. Just to show that, again, all of our nation's papers are focusing on the biggest story in the country, which is, of course, the burial of our former president. But yeah, as you can see, just to show the emotion in that picture on the front page of the Punch there.
That's the biggest story. We pay our respect. But, Femi, there's a story that is deep in my heart.
Go ahead.
My heart is burning and my heart is grieving. All through the night, on Saturday, I couldn't sleep. So this was one of the reasons. I've been complaining about not being able to. This is one of the reasons. I got a startling call, early hours of the morning, from students of dentistry of UNICAL, University of Calabar. And they said, Rufai, please put in a word for us. Our future is about to be truncated. They said they're about getting to the end of their school term. We're
in July, yes.
Yeah. And this person said about 40 of them in dentistry class. The school is saying they don't even have accreditation for about 10. And that they should find alternatives.
What does that mean? They don't have
accreditation for about 10, so that means you can't graduate. That's what it means. After spending many years, the person that called me said she'd been in school since 2017. After enduring strike and everything, and they cannot graduate. I dug further. I got more very hard facts and evidence to that effect. I have reached out on the level I can, and I put word out there to some stakeholders. But I'm also repeating it here. See, we can't be rowdy in a room at this point in time. The future is at stake. My proposition is, what can we do to solve and help the future of these dentistry students and other students of the University of Calabar? I've heard a lot of arguments from the side of school saying, where's the money to be able to get the infrastructure to be able to pass the accreditation? It's not there.
No, it's just not an excuse that fits this example,
But
right?
there's
the
no
students already
excuse
here.
that'll be fitting enough to give somebody that's been in school since 2017,
Correct.
and when it's the very last lap of their lives,
Right.
you're telling them you don't even have accreditation for up to 10 in a class of 39. And that was what I couldn't sleep. It was Saturday, was supposed to be, you know how we do this show, it's a very long show, and that night in Saturday we want to sleep. But when this call wakes me up in the wee hours of the morning, you can't go to bed again. You're walking the phone line. So it's a lot of pain in my heart. It's like dagger ripping through my heart. And I just feel I have to say it. I plead. It's a plea this morning. I don't know how we're going to sort it out, but please, those kids must graduate.
They must.
I beg. I don't know who might be watching this now. I don't know who can forward this plight of the University of Calabar students, dentistry, and some other people suffering
Agreed.
this. Please.
Very quickly, I want to touch on, I know you didn't take The Guardian, but I think that's what drew my attention as somebody who is passionate about broadcasting and the business of broadcasting. Guardian today was leading with news of, the headline was Pay TV Struggles as More Nigerians Opt for Mobile Streaming Services. And it was just looking at basically the battle that we've been seeing between traditional media and new media. There we go. And, you know, recently MultiChoice announced that they've lost about 1.4 million subscribers in Nigeria. MultiChoice South Africa lost about 2.6 million subscribers, I believe. And earlier in the year, MultiChoice Nigeria actually cut the price of their decoder just to try and get more people to, you know, to get onto the platform and to stay onto the platform. And it just shows you where the world is going. So I know they've introduced their own digital streaming platform, Showmax, but when you have your Netflixes and all the other platforms that are coming in to compete in this space, in terms of price, in terms of value proposition that you're getting for the subscription that you're paying per month, it's tough competition. My biggest fear in all of this is that our own African broadcasters might actually be facing an existential threat, because the scale at which these international platforms can roll out and the type of content they can roll out is still unmatched to what we can do for ourselves locally. I'll always love a MultiChoice because of how much they've done to our television, for our television industry, for our film industry, the level of investment, the number of jobs created, you know, across the continent. I just hope that we can figure this out, because it gives me palpitations. I'm a big fan of traditional media, and especially, like I said, because these are platforms that have been carrying our African stories without bias of, oh, you don't appeal to the international audience or whatever it is. You know, the number of series that you see, Nigerian series, South African series, Kenyan series, and so forth.
The appetite has to be there.
The appetite is there, but I just hope we can navigate. I know we're fighting a losing fight.
It's a losing
we
battle.
can talk about this onwards and onwards.
It's sad, but
we will take a short break.